New insight today into what voters are thinking in at least one swing state that helped determine the 2016 election. Talking about the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, which has more registered Democrat than Republican voters, nearly 1 million more, but only 71% registered Democrats showed up to vote for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. NBC's Corey Coffin has been talking with some voters there. She's in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. It used to be a very, very red part of that state. Many Democrats are hoping that it'll turn at least a little bit purple, especially with Joe Biden there being born just across the river from Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, it's a little less red now is the best way to describe it, kind of getting into the purple side. I mean, there are more registered Democrats in Luzerne County than there are Republicans, very similar to the state of Pennsylvania, Candace. But it did flip for Trump in a larger way than the state. In fact, let's bring up the information we have when it comes to the 2016 election results. Pennsylvania, Trump won by less than a percentage point. It was such a narrow lead there. And when it comes to Luzerne County, he won by 19 points. So quite a big difference there. And that is mostly because of manufacturing jobs. And a lot of those manufacturing jobs had traditionally gone with voters. They had gone Democrat because they're union workers, and they were able to be convinced by Trump when it comes to the future of their jobs. But now we're in a unique position in 2020. We have a 100-year pandemic. We have crises economically. We have racial injustices happening. Many of these issues are taking precedence for voters. I talked to several voters yesterday about how the last 4 years have been. Listen to what they told me.
I am a Democrat. I have always voted in presidential elections since I've been old enough to vote, but it was the 2016 election that turned me to activism locally.
I'm a registered Republican. I have voted in all presidential elections since I was able to vote.
And you are currently undecided for 2020?
Currently, yes. I don't know that anybody has the crystal ball that's working really well. I hope somebody does.
Yeah, and Candace, one of our panelists said, as of right now, he doesn't even plan on voting because he just doesn't support either candidate. And I think that was a big problem in 2016 for Democrats. As you mentioned, they could only get 71% of registered Democrats out to vote, even though Democrats make up much more portion of voters in the state. So that's also going to be another challenge for the party moving forward, is to learn from 2016 and how do they impassion voters for 2020 and how do they inspire them to come out and actually vote. Well, the panelists told me how are they going to be inspired. Their number one issue, coronavirus. Another number one issue, racial injustice, addressing that on day one for whoever the person is that is going to be our president in 2021. And then that third issue, of course, right here, especially in Wilkes-Barre and Luzerne County, is going to be bringing back jobs, not just the job losses that were sustained over the last several months because of coronavirus and the major economic crisis that we're in, but also the future of jobs, which they don't believe necessarily in this area is going to be manufacturing. So they need a new type of job here, Candace.
And that's the thing, though, in the end. There are so many people who have been saying, you know, Joe Biden is up in the polls within younger voters, but that's great. But then you have that young man who reflects so many other young people who are just, nah, I'm good. I'm not planning to vote. Like, what would it take for them to say, yes, this is important?
What is that going to look like? That's the challenge for Democrats.
All right. They got to figure that out. MSNBC's Corey Coffin live in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.